I get a lot of my string arrangements done over there.
Oh yeah, of course.
But they still need to be written. And in India, they just they don't write it out properly. There's like, oh, I don't know, this one. And then when I go there, they all go. The conductor goes, Western style, Western style. Oh, Western style. Yeah. And I got these funny ways of sort of yeah.
But those things don't define me. So I'm Chinese from birth, but I'm truly, I think, it's kind of a citizen of this planet.
Then having the passion and the desire to want to actually go and see it. That's another thing. I should be a tourist board. They should pay me for advertising. Yes, it's because I love it.
Yeah, I think I was very heavily featured in all the brochures with a microphone. And I didn't know they blew a picture up that big. They blew a picture up for a music exhibition.
Oh yeah.
So I went to the exhibition, just to shop for cheaper stuff, and I was like, what the hell?
I guess my journey is like many young people nowadays, from very remote hometown or little village in some third world country and then come all the way to the West or to the first world. So I don't think, in that sense, I'm unique because I think I share the story of a village youth now live in London. I had a very strong drive when I was young, as a young girl in a small fishing village in South China. And I don't know why how this drive of going outside to see the world and to create certain kind of narrative, like I write and make film. So I don't know how and when this started in my life. And then I grew up in this small town, which is kind of typical Chinese town in the south. They grow rice and people have animals like buffaloes. Most people were farmers. And then when I was 17 or 18, I wanted to somehow become a writer or filmmaker because of the influence I got from my family.
I just always wanted to go to England and play guitar, and I was growing up in quite a dark, you can say, times in Bulgaria, sort of the 80s, and just before the changes. So going abroad to pursue your dream was not that easy, and we came on a holiday with my parents. I really wanted to stay in England. We came to London, I was 16, I was like, man, can we just stay? We had to leave my brother because that was the old communist way, the family is not going to all leave and not come back if there is one person left. And they were quite right, because my parents, damn it, they went back for my brother. I was like, come on, my brother, they'll send him, Red Cross, something will happen. But no, they didn't listen to me. We were able to get passports and come to England. At that point, I already had a 13-month-old son. But I just thought, you know what, I'm not losing anything, because it was quite crazy at the time, with the changes, and with a baby, there was shortages of food, strange times politically as well, very unstable, people going on the streets, like small rebellions, not massive revolutions, but, scary enough when you have a little kid.
I was born in Kenya, and my grandfather went to Kenya from India. In fact, he was taken to Kenya by the British Raj because the British Empire were building railways in Kenya. And then when I was about a year old, I caught polio in my leg. In fact, I caught it in my whole body. So then, and then my father happened to be in England studying, and so he said to my mum, bring him over, and the doctors here are better. And then they decided to set up life here. So we came in 1961 from East Africa, and then we moved to Southall in 1968 because there was a very big Asian population developing in Southall.
We came to England when I was 9 years old. My father, it was with my father's work. My father was a diplomat, so he had a post to come to England, so we came here. I remember playing barefooted in the garden. I remember, the doors always been open and anyone can just come in, sunshine, food. And I remember wanting to climb trees, but I was told I was too young. And I've always wanted to climb trees. So yeah, that's how life was. And then we came to England when I was 9.
And then I went to Beijing, which I began film study in a film school. And from there, I think it was kind of coherent why I left China, came to West, and then I studied film again in the UK, and then I sort of decided I'm going to live in this country because more than 10 years I've been living here. So it's my second home. It's always a dodgy question, If you ask immigrant what kind of nationality, well, you ask a very kind of in an authoritative way or technically, okay? Technically, according to the passport, I have a British passport, but none of the identity would define who I am. So in a way, I think if you're an artist or if you're a normal human being, you want to live beyond the national identity or those kind of strange identity. You possess those identities because you need to be practical in order to live. And I don't know if I will end up in London, rest of my life. I think life is long. I could be anywhere. And I think home is somewhere you felt comfortable for a certain period of time. My relationship with London is a difficult one because London is quite a difficult city and it's not a very comfortable city. So I think that's why I'm looking for a real home, but maybe it's never existed.
So I always say to people, because people say that I'm second generation British Asian, which is correct, but I say that I'm third because I think we were British before we came to England. The actual instrument, the tabla, is a wonderful instrument and it's a great sounding instrument, but it upsets me that only Indians play Indian instruments. It seems to be that the way Indian music is taught rules out white people. And I don't think there's a sort of racism thing going on. I just think, for example, with the tabla, you have to speak it before you play it. So you learn the patterns by rote. So you go da, di da da da. And also to say di da 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 for a non-Indian person, I think it's a bit too much to ask someone to say that. And so if you can't say it, then you can't play it, which is a shame. The other thing also, which is really upsetting for me, and it's to do with sort of diaspora and migration in that way, because a lot of the concerts that I do as a soloist come under the banner of East meets West. And every time I do that, I think, haven't we met before? Why does East keep meeting West? But, it's an interesting question. And you can say it's overused, but there's mileage in it. And I think that mileage needs to stop because there's no East meets West anymore. So like we met ages ago, like 400 years ago. Now let's do something.
Despite me not sort of living there for more than my 9 years, I've always been inspired by the culture. So I paint the culture. I think it's a way also to educate people of how the culture is in Cameroon and, you know, Africa in general, because I paint other sort of cultures. And Mum was really kind. She actually got someone to help me teach, you know, show me how to do perspective. I was 9 years old. So I was doing perspectives at 9. And yes, it was something that I felt I had to do in a way. So I just, you know, painting since I was, something I just felt comes natural. Well, being Cameroonian, there's a lot of the culture, which I think I've kept. A lot of culture about respecting your elders and about, you know, just being receptive to people and you know, and respecting and, you know, so that's part of the African culture, which I've kept, which I think has shaped me into the person that I am. It was interesting because normally it would be the other way around, especially African parents. They would say, no, you go and do something that you have to go to university, you know. But it was very encouraging that, you know, they said, go be an artist if that's what you want. This is Rose. Rose is a beautiful pregnant woman, proud of her state at the time. And she's clothed again with African print. It's all about sort of, you know, bringing the culture out, people being able to recognize and appreciate and know the culture in the Western world, obviously more so.
And my husband, he was a guitarist as well, so we sort of thought that he was going to make it. But eventually I was the one who got accepted to do a degree in music and stayed in London. And kind of everything sort of progressed from meeting that small cluster of musicians in a college in London. Teaching at the music college, we have students from literally everywhere. I don't think there is a country, you know, Azerbaijan, I would just say a random country and I'd say, yes, we've had a student from there. I think coming from somewhere like what Bulgaria was back then, coming to England, where you realize that you have got a lot of opportunities, you know, as they say, the door is wide open. A lot of people want to get through, but it is wide open. So you sort of try and be as good as possible and as stubborn as possible and don't take no for an answer. But back then, that definitely would have inspired me, the fact that I had an opportunity, I had a freedom, and I had a chance. My family, they're both electronic engineers. Embarrassingly, I can't even set up my own bass. What was great about them is that actually all those prog rock bands that I talked about, they listened to and they played to me when I was a kid. These are my parents. That's my grandparents. Oh my God. Yeah. This is a Fender Precision I bought recently and I had repainted because I wanted that color. This was my band I was in a signed band for a year. Yeah. It was really good. Yeah, it was good to be the artist. Yeah.
I would like to be remembered as the artist, of course, who loved her culture, as the artist who also, by loving my culture, allows others to be inspired to love their culture. Because we're only, you know, we are who we are and we can't help who we are. So I want everyone to be proud of who they are and glorify it.
I think musicians just want to play together. And you can get people in a room that can't speak the same language, but they can play. And I love that.
I think mostly it would be nice to be remembered as somebody who was a good person to work with. But, you know, it would be nice to have people who I worked with say, actually, yeah, I really loved being on tour with Svet, and I really enjoyed being taught by Svet because she was a nice person and she inspired me in one way or another. I think that would be a good way.
So that says I don't wish to be remembered as so on and so on, but I think, you know, for your children, I think perhaps that's the only thing, you know, would be important if children will think you are a truly good person or intelligent person in their life. I think that's the only thing I would wish.